Giant students, welcome to my YouTube channel. Students, if you really want something, be prepared to do what it takes to reach that goal. It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives. Actually, consistency is the key to success. Consistency leads to habits. Habits form the actions we take every day, and action leads to success.
With that positive note, students, let's begin today's lecture. Today we will be discussing a very important phenomena of diffraction of light. Now, in order to study the phenomena of diffraction of light, we need to consider a light source S. Suppose this is a light source S. And let us consider that the light from source S passes through a narrow slit AB. This is suppose AB. It's a narrow slit. Let us consider this to be a narrow slit. And if the rectilinear propagation of light holds good, then only portion A dash B dash of the screen will get illuminated. Now, if we consider light to travel along straight path, so light will travel along this direction, right? So, only this portion, suppose it is A dash and this is B dash of the screen. Only the portion A dash B dash of the screen will get illuminated, while the portion A dash X and the portion of the screen B dash Y of the screen, it will be a geometrically shadow region, isn't it? So this is a screen. So again I repeat, students, what we have considered is S be a source of light, AB be a narrow slit, and XY is a screen. Now light from the source, if it obey the rectilinear propagation of light, that is it passes along or it moves along a straight path, then only this portion of the screen, which is A dash B dash, will get illuminated, while the portion of the screen A dash X and B dash Y will be the geometrically shadow region. Right? Consider the other case, students. Suppose AB is an obstacle. Let us consider this to be an obstacle. And this be the source of light. Now when an obstacle AB is placed, then what happens? Its distinct shadow would be formed on the screen. Now it will be like this. As per rectilinear propagation of light, light will tend to propagate along straight path, obviously. So, its distinct shadow will be formed on the screen. It is A dash B dash. This will be the geometrically dark or geometrically shadow region, while the portion of the screen A dash X and B dash Y will get illuminated, right? This is the screen. Let me repeat these two cases. Students, in case 1, what we have considered is AB is a narrow slit, and if the rectilinear propagation of light holds good strictly, then only the portion A dash B dash of the screen will be illuminated, and no light would enter in the region A dash X and B dash Y of the screen. So this will behave as geometrical shadow region. It would be dark, isn't it? And in the second case, students, what we have observed is, in place of narrow slit, we have placed an obstacle, right? So when an obstacle AB is placed, then its distinct shadow, A dash B dash, would be obtained on the screen, right? But students, remember, these two situations is observed strictly only and only when the size of the slit or the width or the size of the obstacle is very large. Suppose the width of the slit or the size of the obstacle is considered to be small a. Now, if the width of the slit or the size of the obstacle is very large, then only this phenomena is observed. However, students, if the size of the obstacle or the width of the slit is very small, comparable to the wavelength of the light, Suppose the wavelength of the light wave emitted by this source is lambda. And if A is comparable to lambda, then what happens is light enters in the geometrically shadow region as well. So light enters in the prohibited region as well, right? So this shows that light can bend round the corners of a slit or an obstacle. So this phenomena of bending of light round the sharp corners and spreading into the regions of the geometrically shadow region is called diffraction. Basically, students, diffraction effect is observed in principle in all types of wave motion. The diffraction of radio waves and sound waves is readily observed in practice. We'll discuss the reason for that as well, right? So, diffraction is the phenomena of bending of light around the sharp corners or the edges of a slit or an obstacle, provided the width of the slit or the size of an obstacle is comparable to the wavelength of the light emitted by the source. Students, let us recap the things which we have just now studied, right? So what we have discussed is, if the size of the obstacle or the width of the slit is very, very small and is comparable, it is comparable to the wavelength of the light, then only the light tends to bend round the sharp corners or the edges of the obstacle. And in doing so, what happens is light enters the geometrically prohibited or the geometrical shadow region, isn't it? It will enter in this region due to the bending of light around the sharp corners. So this phenomena of bending of light around the sharp corners or the edges of a slit or an obstacle and it's spreading into the geometrical shadow region, that is known as diffraction, right? So diffraction of light takes place only when, or diffraction of waves in general takes place only when the width of the slit or the size of the obstacle is comparable to the wavelength of the wave, right? This is the mandatory condition, right? One more important point is that sound diffraction is more pronounced than light diffraction. That is, diffraction effect is observed, as I have told you, in principle in all types of wave motion. But the diffraction of radio waves and sound waves, is readily observed in daily life. It is readily observed in practice or in daily life. Why is it so? I will tell you the reason. Students, the wavelength of radio waves or sound waves can be in few meters. So even if the size of the obstacle or the slit is in meters, then also the sound get diffracted. While on the other hand, in case of light, the wavelength of the light waves is of the order of 10 raised to power minus 7 meter. So it is only when the size of the obstacle or the width of the slit is of the order of 10 raised to power minus 5, 10 raised to power minus 6 or 10 raised to minus 7 meter that the light will get diffracted, isn't it? So in practice, due to the large size of the obstacle, sound get readily diffracted. While on the other hand, the diffraction of light is not readily observable. Clear? So the reason is the wavelength of sound waves, or rather radio waves, is very, very large as compared to that of light waves. So even if the size of the obstacle is large in meters, then also sound get diffracted, right? Diffraction phenomena can be classified into two groups. One is the Fresnel diffraction and the other one is the Fraunhofer diffraction. Students, in the case of Fresnel diffraction, both the source of light and the screen are placed at finite distance from the narrow slit. So we observe this type of diffraction then, right? Now, since the source of light is close to the slit, it is placed at a finite distance. So, the wavefront is either spherical in case of a point source or cylindrical in case of a line source, right? Again, I repeat, students, in the case of Fresnel diffraction, the source of light and the screen are placed at a finite distance from the narrow slit. So, in case the source is a point source, then the nature of the wavefront would be obviously spherical, and in case the source is a line source, then the nature of the wavefront is cylindrical. That's regarding Fresnel diffraction. And in the case of Fraunhofer diffraction, the source and the screen both are at infinite distance from the narrow slit. That is, when both the incident and the emergent wavefronts are plane, then we observe Fraunhofer diffraction. And students, in the case of Fraunhofer diffraction, light is rendered parallel by using a convex lens between the source and the slit. I'll draw the diagram for you. And the parallel diffracted light is focused on a screen by using another convex lens between the slit and the screen. So, in your syllabus, we'll be discussing diffraction due to a single slit, which is, we'll consider Fraunhofer diffraction. Fraunhofer diffraction, that is the diffraction at a single slit. So as I've told you, students, this is the case where we'll be making use of a single slit, and Fresnel, he gave the correct explanation of the phenomena of diffraction of light on the basis of Huygens theory of secondary wavelets. Students, diffraction takes place due to the interference of secondary wavelets starting from different portions of the primary wavefront, which is not blocked by an obstacle or which is allowed to pass by an aperture or slit. So before discussing further the Fraunhofer diffraction, let us watch this animation and try to understand the diffraction, the phenomena of diffraction, and the diffraction due to a single slit. And then we will recapitulate the entire topic.
The fact that we can hear sounds around the corners and around barriers involves both diffraction and reflection of sound. Diffraction in such cases helps the sound to bend around the obstacles. Diffraction involves a change in direction of waves as they pass through an opening or around a barrier in their path. So the phenomenon of bending of wave round the sharp corners or the obstacles, that is diffraction. Wavelength of sound is much more than the wavelength of light. For light diffraction, the width should be much smaller to be comparable to its wavelength. Thus, sound diffraction is more pronounced than light diffraction. Thus, it is only when the width of the opening is very small that the light bends around the corners. Now let us try to understand diffraction due to a single slit. Consider a monochromatic source of light emitting light waves of wavelength lambda is placed at the principal focus of a convex lens L. A parallel beam of light, that is a plane wavefront, gets incident on a narrow slit AB of width A. The diffraction pattern is obtained on a screen lying at a distance d from the slit and at a focal plane of convex lens L2. According to rectilinear propagation of light, a bright image of the slit is expected at the center O of the screen. But in practice, we get a diffraction pattern, that is a central maxima at the center flanked by a number of dark and bright fringes called secondary maxima and minima on either side of the point O. According to Huygens principle, when light falls on the slit, it becomes a source of secondary wavelets. These wavelets are initially in phase and spread out in all the directions. The wavelets which fall on the lens in a direction parallel to CO meet at point O in the same phase, thereby giving rise to the central maximum at the center of the screen. At any arbitrary point P, the intensity at the point P depends on the path difference between the two waves.
Students, let us revise all the topics that we have discussed in the animation, right? So here, S is the source of the monochromatic light placed at the focus of the convex lens L1. Students, a ray of light passing through the optical center of the lens will remain undeviated, right? And since the source S is placed at the focus of lens L1, therefore the rays, after suffering refraction, it will become parallel to the principal axis. So the rays emerging from the lens L1 would be somewhat like this. So it will appear as if a parallel beam of light is incident. And as we have discussed, in the case of Fraunhofer diffraction, a planar wavefront is incident on the slit. So that can be obtained by making use of convex lens, right? So these are the rays which are parallel to the principal axis, like this. And students, the nature of the wavefront associated over here, suppose this is the wavefront. So the nature of the wavefront associated is planar. This is a planar wavefront. It is a planar wavefront. Right? So in the case of Fraunhofer diffraction, both the source and the screen are at infinite distance from the narrow slit. So when we observe this type of diffraction, what happens is light is rendered parallel as if it is coming from infinity by making use of this lens L1. So by placing the source S at the focus of lens L1, a parallel beam of light is obtained. So a planar wavefront is associated with that parallel beam. So this planar wavefront is incident on this slit, which is considered to have a width A. Suppose A is the width of this slit under consideration, right? Now students, this is another converging or convex lens L2 at the focus of which the screen is placed. This is suppose the center of the screen, right? So as we are aware, convex lens means if a parallel beam of light is incident on a converging lens, then the rays after suffering refraction will tend to converge at the focus, like this. All the rays will tend to converge at the focus. And since the screen is placed at the focus of lens L2, therefore, in case no diffraction of light takes place, that is, the width of the slit is very large as compared to that of the wavelength of the light, then we will expect a central bright spot to be obtained exactly at the center of the screen. Right, students? So basically, what happens is we have considered a plane wavefront which is reaching slit AB of width A, right? According to Huygens principle, every point on the slit, these are the various points, suppose, every point on the slit are initially in the same phase because the wavefront is plane, isn't it? So these secondary wavelets or waves spread out in all the directions due to diffraction. Now, suppose O is the center. Now over here what happens is, these are the wavelets, these are the waves which cover the equal distance in reaching point O. Therefore, initially they are in the same phase, and on reaching point O also they meet at the same phase. So they tend to reinforce each other, and as a result, the intensity of the light is maximum at the center. Right, students? So again I repeat, students, if the width of the slit, that is small a, is considered to be very large as compared to the wavelength of the light emitted from this monochromatic source S, then we will expect a central bright spot at the center of the screen. But if A is, that is the width of the slit, is comparable to the wavelength of the light emitted by this source, then what happens is light bends around the sharp corners or the edges of the slit, and accordingly, instead of obtaining a central maxima at the center of the screen, we obtain a diffraction pattern, which consists of a central maximum which is flanked on both the sides by alternate dark and bright fringes, which are known as secondary minima and secondary maxima respectively. Right? Students, let us consider those secondary wavelets or waves which are diffracted by an angle theta. This is angle theta, right? This is the angle through which the light get diffracted at the sharp corners or the edges of this slit AB. AB is the slit, right? And suppose this is any arbitrary point P on the screen. So this lens will tend to converge these waves which are diffracted by an angle theta at point P, like this. Now students, what we have considered over here is, we have considered the secondary wavelets or the waves which are diffracted at an angle theta. This is the angle theta. This was the original direction and this is the angle of diffraction, right? Now, suppose these two waves which are traveling along a direction theta with this original direction are brought in focus at point P by the lens on the screen, right? Now the intensity at point P, students, it will entirely depend on the path difference between the secondary waves emitted from the corresponding points on the wavefront. Now in order to do so, what to do is, we'll drop a perpendicular from A. So suppose if we drop a perpendicular from A, then this distance, it will give us the path difference between the two waves. Let us consider these 2 points. This is A and this is B. Now if, as per the rectilinear propagation light, if the rays do not get diffracted, then this is the original direction, isn't it? This is the original direction. Now suppose the waves get diffracted through an angle theta. This is it. This is the angle theta. And this is the width of the slit. The width of the slit is considered to be small letter a. Now what I have stated is, drop a perpendicular from A. This is the perpendicular. Suppose this is N. Now, for the waves 1 and 2 emitted from points A and B of the slit, right? Bn will be the path difference. So the path difference between the secondary waves reaching point P from A and B will be Bn. So path difference between the secondary waves these are going to point P. So path difference between the secondary waves reaching point P. Point P is any arbitrary point on the screen. And these are the secondary waves emitted from A and B. From A and B is given by Bn. Right? This is the path difference. And as I have stated, students, the intensity at point P will depend on the path difference between the secondary waves emitted from the corresponding points on the wavefront. So that is how we can decide whether point P is the seat for secondary minima or secondary maxima. Students will derive the conditions for secondary minima and the secondary maxima in my next video, right? So I hope you have understood the introductory part of diffraction, and we have also discussed Fraunhofer diffraction, that is diffraction at a single slit. So students, don't miss the next video, in which we'll be discussing and we'll be trying to mathematically determine the conditions for obtaining secondary minima and secondary maxima. So till then, do take very good care of yourself and keep watching my videos and keep smiling, keep fit and always be in high spirits. Thank you, students.